Okay, so Endless128 Infinity asking how to make a simple clicker game. I shared them the link to the persistence example on VRChat. However, they only show that in Udon Sharp, and that's probably for good reason, because as soon as your games get somewhat big, it gets kind of hard to do it in Graph. But I thought this would be a good example to show how you can convert Udon Sharp to Udon Graph, and then also with that understanding, you should easily be able to do the other way as well. Because they're both based on C Sharp. It's just the elements around it can be a little bit difficult in terms of like how it's shown, but essentially they can be done one-to-one. So anyways, here's the example, and the idea is that you click the button to get cheese, and then you can buy an auto clicker once you've got enough cheese. So very simple, and the scripts for it are, well, a little complicated. So here we have the idle game. This is the main script, and then you've got another one, which I haven't actually got open. Let me just open up the button, which is very simple. So you do Udon Sharp, and it has a public variable, which, by the way, this is an Udon behavior that can only be the idle game, which is not a feature in Udon Graph. And you'll probably hear that a decent amount when I go through this. But anyways, I think this should be a good example. So first of all, how about we just start with this? I'm going to put this to the side, and then I'm just going to come... Actually, no, that's not... Can I put this to the side? Well, yeah, it does allow me. Cool. So I'm just going to delete this, which was a failed attempt at recording this earlier. And I'm going to create a VRChat Udon Graph. Did I click it? Sorry, I'm just going to come back here, go create VRChat Udon Graph Programming Asset, and I'm going to call this idle game button. And let me show you how you can make this in Udon Graph. So I'm going to press Shift Spacer. I was going to full screen this, which is going to be very important because I haven't got much room to work with. I usually work on a 4K monitor, so this is a very short amount of room, but this should hopefully show for you guys. Anyways, first we've got the public variable. Now this is showing idle game, which is an Udon behavior that can only be that particular script, which can only be this idle game script. Oh, I'm going to have to zoom out of that a little. Anyways, for all we can do in Udon Graph is to make an Udon behavior component. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to create an Udon behavior component. I'm going to call this, they did it camel case, so it's idle game. And then I'm going to hit this drop down and make it public, so because this one's public and it means we'll be able to see it inside the inspector. Then we've got this public override void interact. This is just the event interact. Whenever it has an override, that means that it's a VRChat event, and whenever it doesn't have override, that means it's either a custom event or it's a default Unity event. For example, if I was to do start, it would be a private start variable, and this would be the equivalent to event start. So that's something that you notice when in Udon Sharp, but in Udon Graph, it's all just considered the same. Cool. Anyways, we'll delete that, and now we need idle game.click. So this is essentially saying play the click custom event on idle game. This can also sometimes be written as idle game.send custom event, and then you do idle game. Then you go name of, and then what it would be. You can see exactly why people don't do this. You can do it that way, or alternatively, you can also just do it like that to show it's a string, and then you can do it this way. These are the three different ways that you can share a custom event on a different... These are the three different ways you can play a custom event on a different script. Sorry, I'm not going to be editing this video, so I apologize for any brain farts like that. But the cool thing about name of is that if you were to change the cool thing about name of, or about doing it this way, which is just shorter, the cool thing about that is that if you were to rename click, it would rename it on any script that is trying to call that event, which is very, very useful. Anyways, none of that matters. Oh, by the way, underscore means that it's doesn't play on a what's it called? It doesn't play over the network, so you can't do send custom network event, but it also means that players who have got a hacked client can't tell other players to play that event as if it was a send custom network event. Anyways, minor detail there. So what we need to do is we're going to go send custom event. We plug it in here. We put our Udon behavior in here. And like I said before, there's no custom event or anything because we can't do it that way. So instead, we actually have to give it the string. So put the string here, do constant string, and I'm just going to copy and paste. So now this will play. So now when this event is called, okay, we click the button, it will tell idle game to play the event underscore click. Now, once again, I showed you that you could rename this. Go and Control RR. I could rename this to whatever, and that would change it on that event. I don't want to do that, but yeah, you don't get that feature in Udon Graph, which is another reason why it's not quite as good. But that's just the fun of it all. Anyway, so that's a simple one to do. Now we're on for the much more long and complicated idle game. Now, anything up here, this is automatically done by Graph. You don't have to worry about any of this. But this is just referring to libraries. So sometimes, for example, if you want to use a Text Mesh Pro thing, you need to have the using Text Mesh Pro library enabled. Otherwise, I mean, technically you can do Text Mesh Pro.that, and then you wouldn't need the using Text Mesh Pro. You can see that this one's fine, but this one now gives an error. But nope, that was not what I meant to do. Let's just undo all of that. We're good. Okay, so now let's get into the more complicated one. So let's go create VRChat Udon Graph program asset. I'm going to call this idle game graph. And I'm going to open up the Udon behavior. Awesome, so now we're in here. The first thing we're going to do is create all the variables. Now, if you're any good at, if the script is coded correctly, or not necessarily correctly, but using the regular, methods and whatnot, you have all your variables at the top. Now, we'll see we've got headers here, and these are really useful because it means that when you have the idle game, you can see that you've got, these are the visuals and these are the gameplay. Your visuals and gameplay. It nicely separates them out. That's not a feature on Udon Graph, so we don't have to worry about that. So we can come over here, and we simply want to, first of all, we want to create a Text Mesh Pro UGI, which is the Text Mesh Pro component that goes on canvases. So we want to do a Text Mesh Pro UGI variable. We want another one, Text Mesh Pro UGI. Then we want to create a string, another string. What's next? Then we want an int, a float, a string, another string, and then we need 3 more ints. I really wish you could duplicate variables. Anyways, the first one is named points text. Then we need by auto clicker text. What's after that? It would be, you know what? I'm actually going to copy these, so there'll be less mistakes. Nope, that one. And so literally all we're doing is we're just grabbing whatever their variables are, because that will be useful. Now you notice that these ones are on a constant. That is basically means it's unchangeable, and that's very useful, but that's not a feature in Udon Graph, so you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't affect much though. Okay, so now let's go from the top. Let's go from the bottom because of the drop downs. So this is not public because it's a private variable, and it's got no default value, so it doesn't matter. We've got auto clicker. Now it's not public, and its default value is 0, which is the same here, and same with points. So that's all nice and easy. Now auto clicker key. Now this has a default text in it, so we're going to copy that and paste it in here. It is private. It's a private constant variable, so we can just leave it unticked. So we don't have to make it public. Then points is default to points, and then we've got this one which is public and it has a default value, so we're public, and then we paste this in and get rid of the F. The F is to indicate that it's a float variable. You don't have to worry about that in Udon Graph. This one also has a default value and is public. Then the next one, now this one is a bit longer, so we're just going to paste it in here, and this is used for the formatting the text, which is useful, but we don't really need to worry about this quite yet. And yeah, all these are public, and these last two are public, and that means you can see it inside the inspector. Personally, I'm surprised they didn't do a serialized field private, because this would make it, serialized field private, and this would mean that this variable is private but can be changed inside the inspector. Personally, I do that for literally everything because you don't want to make variables public if you don't need to, but they've made it public, and besides that wouldn't be a feature in Udon Graph, so we wouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, so let's start with the first event, and that is start. We can see it's a private void, doesn't have override because this is a default Unity event, so we can just put a start event start here, and then we want the auto clicker price to do this. I need to make this, so I'm just going to make this compile quickly. And that makes that nice and thing. Oh, I could have clicked compile or reload as well. But anyways, so they just auto shrunk everything for me, which is normally not a feature, but it is in this case. Anyways, so we want the auto clicker price, and we want to change that because we want it to equal something, which means change it to this variable. So that means we want to drag and drop it while holding down control to get a variable that will set it. We can plug that in here, and then we want to change its value to be initial auto clicker price, which is a variable, which is this one. And we can plug that in here. Now we've got a send custom event, and send custom event delayed seconds. Now obviously we won't be able to fill these in, but we can at least make the variables. So I want to send custom event, a send custom event, and a send custom event delayed seconds. And I'm just going to plug these in like so. And obviously you want the arrows because we want this to happen, then this, then this, then this, which is this happened, then this, then this, then this. So there we go. Anyways, now we want onPlayer restored. Now onPlayer restored plays whenever the persistent values come into VRChat. So whenever those load in, it will play this event and it'll play it for every single player. So first we need to check if it was the local player that got played. So first of all, we want to do onPlayer restored. And then we want to check if this player is the local player with a player API is local, which is essentially what that's doing. They're grabbing the player variable, which is this, and they're checking is it local, and we're telling it to return. Now, return doesn't exist in graph. Instead, what they're saying is whenever they have an if statement, that means it's a branch node. And basically they're saying if anything is on this false, do literally nothing. So we don't have to worry about that. We can just come out of the true. Normally what you do if you wanted both of these is you'd use a block node, and then it would check this and then do something else on the second arrow of the block node, which you'll see very, very shortly. Anyways, first of all, we want to check if the player has a key, and then we're going to check if they have this other key. Now, a key is basically how VRChat stores persistence data, and that's why we've got these two keys, which are the name on which it's stored in the library. This needs to be unique for every single script. For every single object. So even if you had two scripts, they need to have this key to be separate, otherwise it will combine the two. So basically you can have multiple scripts grabbing from the same value if you want, but also you can, if you want them to be separate, so say you've got multiple mirrors and you want to, have them toggle on separately and not all at once, you would want to have a different key for every single one of them. I hope that makes sense. You'll probably have to play around with that. I should really get my persistence video out, or at least start it. Oh, I've been so lazy. Anyways, so player data, we're going to check if it has keys. So for this, we need a player data, which is a really long name in Udon graph of SDK persistence player data. That's and we're going to check if it has key. Basically, what that's saying is grab the persistence variable, which is VRC persistence from this library, and then has player data. It's a technicality. Before we do this, you'll notice that these two haven't got. It's not if and then else, which is if and then else. Instead, it's if this and then if that. So that means we get to play these separately, which means we need a block node. Which, by the way, the shortcuts I'm using for a branch node is hold down B and click when you don't have anything selected. If you have something selected, it does. Oh, it did actually work there. Have I disabled that setting? I don't know. Disable both these settings. They suck. Sorry. And then for block, it's Shift B. And Shift B and click. You can see that in the welcome. These are all the shortcuts, which I will be using because they just speed up stuff so much. So first of all, it's a block node. Then we've got the if statement, which means that you need a branch node, like so. And now we need to check whether or not the player has the key. So we want to use a player data has key. And now because this requires the arrows, we're going to have to put the arrows into it. Otherwise, this event just doesn't play. And then we need to check if it's if the player, which player and player, has keys point, which is this variable. So if they have that keys point, we're going to put the ball into that. Make sure you got that. On the true, we now need to do whatever's inside this if statement. So first of all, we've got points, and we're going to set that to a value because it goes points equals. So we're going to grab points, hold down control to get a variable that'll set it. And then we need to give it the player data get int variable node. So we need a player data get int variable. I'm going to plug that in. And then we need to check if the player has keys point. I'm going to duplicate this just so that I can make this a little bit cleaner because this is going to get messy so quickly. So I'm going to put you up there, grab this. I'm going to put, oh no, that block node actually will need to go down for, because we've got two things to do. And I'm going to bring this up like so, and that looks just a little bit cleaner. And this is the thing about graph, it's so easy to make it look really ugly and then really hard to follow because of that. Actually, if I can put this over here, that makes that cleaner. Woohoo! Okay, so we're going to set the points to equal our player. First we're going to check if the player has the key, and if it does have the key, we then want to grab that key's value and set our points to that. And then we need to update the points text, which is a event that we don't have currently. So we're going to do send custom event and plug that in. Cool, but we can't put that in because we don't exist. So instead we're going to do the next one. So we're going to check if the player has the key auto-clicker's key, which I'm actually just going to copy this down here. And then I'm going to put the player into that. And then I'm going to check if they has the auto-clicker's key. Which, if they do, we need to get that value. So for that, it's an int variable. So we're going to do a play does get int. Once again, I'm just going to copy this and just set this to the autos keys. I hope this is somewhat easy to follow. I'm definitely trying to speed through this. Anyways, we're trying to set the auto clickers to this. So first we're going to get auto clicker and hold down Alt. No, not Alt. Auto clickers, auto clicker, and we hold down Control to get a variable that'll set it, and we plug that into the int slot. And that will mean that auto clickers equals whatever player does get int is. But we need the player variable into this. Actually, this is getting messy. I'm just going to use a networking local player. Because essentially, this is only ever going to be the local player that plays this. Because we're already checking if we're the local player. Actually, no, let's make this accurate. Sorry. Yep, just plug it into there. It looks ugly, but hey, it works. Okay, and now we need to check if... Okay, so now that we've set auto clicker, we're going to check we're going to change the auto clicker price to equal this long bit of text. So auto clicker price needs to be set. Holding down Control to get a value to set it. Then we went to mathf round to int. Oh, don't change that. And for this, we're going to actually do a little bit of trickery here. So we're going to do what's inside the event and then go out. It's a little less intuitive. That was not what I meant to click. Okay. How am I doing this? Okay, we're going to grab the auto clicker price. Now, because this is an int and we're going to do a float calculation, we actually have to convert it. Do a convert to float variable, change boolean to int, and put that into here. And then we need to do a mathf multiply, which actually there is a shortcut for that. You hold down the star thing on the numpad and click, I think it was. No, M and click? No, what is it? Oh no, sorry, I'm stuck on this. And oh no, it doesn't exist in Udon, it exists in Amplify Shader. Okay, well, float multiplication. I mean, you can see how little I used it to know the fact it doesn't exist. So we need to multiply it, and then what we're trying to multiply it by is another one, which we need the auto clicker multiplier, which is a float variable, and multiply it by auto clicker, which is not a float variable, so we need to switch it to a float. This gets automatically done in Udon Sharp, so it's kind of inconvenient here. And then we go mathf pow, which is to the power of. And let's make sure I get this around the right way. It's auto clicker twice, but to the power of this. Okay. And we put that into here. We do the multiplier. And then that is all under a mathf round to int. So mathf round to int. Nope. I'm running out of sight because the screen is too small. And we can plug that into here. So now it will update the auto clicker price to be what it's meant to be. And then we've got another, and then we've got an event at the end of it that just is to tell the text to update to whatever it's meant to be. Which, unfortunately, we still don't have that event, so we can't do it. So let's move on to the next one. Public void click. This is the one that our idle game button is meant to call. So I'm going to copy that just to make sure we don't muck that up. Now I'm going to do a custom event, or event custom as it's called in Udon Graph. Annoyingly, that's messed me up multiple times. And then we want to do points plus plus. This is shorthand for, oh, no, not that. For points equals points plus 1, which can also be done as points plus equals 1. So, you know, these are the different ways that you can show adding in Udon Sharp. But they did points plus plus, which means just add 1 to it. So we're going to grab our points variable here. We're going to do points and go int addition. And we're going to add 1 to it. Ta-da! Okay, so that's now done. Now we need to update the player data to equal that. So in order to do that, we need our points key. And we need to do a player data set. Set int, because it's an int variable. Make sure you get that right, because otherwise you can mess up all you'll lose information. And we're just going to plug this into here. So once we've set the points value, we're then going to set it to the new value. If I was to strictly follow what happened here, I would do this. But obviously you can't grab a variable like this and plug that in there. That is a technicality. You technically can, well, it's just shown differently in Udon Graph, but this will be easier for you to reference later. So let me just do it that way. And then we need to update the points text, which once again is a variable, is an event that we don't have. So I'm just going to plug this into here. Okay, now we need to try the button auto clicker. Once again, this is a custom event. So I'm just going to put this down here, and we want to go underscore. No, actually, no, I'm just going to copy that. So we're going to try button clicker. Now, if points is greater than or equal to auto clicker price. Now you're going to have to make sure you remember where your greater than or equal than signs look like. So for this, anyways, we're going to need a branch node. And then we need to do a, these are ints, I believe. So we do int greater than or equal to. Plug that in. And now we need the two variables, which are just ones that we have. So we can, if these two are greater, then we want to buy the next upgrade. And in order to do that, we need to, the first that happens is that we're going to add 1 to our auto clicker. So we grab our auto clicker, we do an int addition, and plug that in. Then what we want to do is we want to minus the amount of points that we, so the amount of points that we have, we then want to minus whatever the auto clicker price was, which we just checked that we're greater than that. So we want to grab our points and our auto clicker price, and we want to use an int subtraction node. And now that we've subtracted it, we need to apply that to points. So we're going to apply that to set points. And then our auto clicker price needs to go to whatever it's going to be again, which by the way is the same calculation, and I'm not doing this again. Not that. So I'm just going to copy and paste that here. Which I'm surprised I didn't actually make that an event, because usually if you have the same code in two different places, you make that into a private event. Which, I don't know, it's just something they haven't done. It's fine. It works. Makes it easier for me because we don't have private events in Udon Graph. Though we're technically going to do that anyways. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set our points, our two values for points and data. Oh, sorry. We need to update our points key and our auto clicker key because we've now added one to the auto clicker key as well as we've updated our points. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a player data. Not player data updated. Player data set int. Actually, both of them are ints, so we can actually just duplicate that, which will be nice and convenient. And then we need our this one will equal points, which is the points key. And graph is starting to lag, which is unfortunate because there's still a lot more to go. And then we need the auto clickers key, and that will equal auto clickers. Ta-da! Oh, I gotta go. Okay, so now we're gonna have two different custom events play. So I'm just gonna copy this because why not? So we've got send custom event and another send custom event, which will be the two update texts, which are down here. But anyways, I'm going to pause quickly and then I'll be back. And I'm back. Okay, so let's finish this. So next up, we've got the update auto clicker event. So for this, we're just going to create our event. I'm just going to paste it down. I'm just going to paste down the one above. And we're going to call this, actually no, look, I'm just going to copy and pesto. Okay, so we've got that. Now we need to, okay, so what's happening here is that this is the auto clicker and it's every single second is just going to update the auto clicker to give us any values from our auto clicker. And so in order to do that, we've got the points and then we're adding the auto clicker to that. So we've got points. We're going to put that in here. Oh, no, we don't want that. Oh, no, we do. Okay, so we have points and we need to also get a variable to change that. So points, and then we want to add auto clicker to that. So that's int addition. Give it this, and then we need to give it auto clicker, which is this one, and plug that into that. So it's going to add however many points we got from the auto clicker this second, and we're going to plug that into set points. Then what we need to do is we've got to player data set in, so this is just going to update the player data. We have that up here, don't we? Yeah, we just grab this. And so it's the points key plus points, and we can set the data to that. And so it's going to update the data, and then we're going to update the points text, and then send custom event to tell this to play. So we need a send custom event, and we need a send custom event delayed seconds node. This next one though, we want to update the auto clicker, which is the one that we just made. And we delay it by 1 second. Okay, so that is all that we need for that one. And then last but not least, we need to actually make these two events. It would be much better if we had made these initially, because then we could have done it as we go, but that is fine. So what we're going to do is we want to create a... Oh, no, I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy this over here, and I forget what it is for private in Udon Graph. I think it's that is the prefix. Can't quite remember, but we're just going to put that in anyways. And then I'm just going to do update points text. And then all this is going to do is we're going to grab our points text. We're going to use a text mesh pro UGI text. Oh, wait, sorry, set text node. And we're going to do string format, blah, 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 blah. So for that, we need a string format node. And we've got the format and then 2 variables to this. So there are the 2 variables. And the first thing we put is the point text format, which is this one here. And you'll notice that on our default, we've got the brackets 0, which is argument 1 or object 1, whatever you want to call it. And then we've got brackets, we've got curly brackets 1, which is the second argument. And so for that, we want points and auto clicker to replace so points will replace the curly brackets 0 curly brackets, and auto clicker will replace the curly brackets 1 curly brackets. This is just a bit of a technical thing, eh? But anyways, that, and we can plug them into the 2 different spots in the format node. And then we just need to set our text to be that value. And like so. Now if we just clean this up slightly, because it does look a little bad. And then these can look nice and square like this. I've spent way too long just playing around with the look of nodes, eh? Sharp is so much better for this because it doesn't let you. Like you just straight up can't. Okay, that's enough playing. Okay, so we've got that, and then I'm also going to create a second one, and this one is going to be called... Now, notice that this one's also a private event, so I'm just going to give it the suffix there just to be on the safe side. So update by auto clicker. It's basically like it hasn't given you enough room in here to show it all, and that's basically it saying that, hey, you're not meant to have that many in it. So this one only has, from memory, yeah, it only has the 1. Because if we look at not auto clicker key, where is it? Points text format by auto text format. We'll see that it's only got the 1 curly brackets. Well, it's got curly brackets 0 curly brackets, which means it's got one thing. And then here we need to make sure it's the by click auto text. Okay, future me realized I forgot to change point text to being the but auto clicker text. Why is it but? Anyways, as well as the points to be auto clicker price. Yeah, enjoy the rest. And so now these two events, whenever they're called, they will grab like the points text and they'll update it to be whatever this value is. And when this one's called, it'll update the auto click because there's 2 bits of text that need to be updated. Okay, so now we need to go back through and figure out which ones are meant to call what events. So update auto, so update points text. So this one's meant to be update points text. And of course it makes it a bit bigger, but that's fine. We've got update. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. We can, if we select one, we can highlight and see where it shows up in the script, which is really useful for bug fixing stuff and finding stuff. It's another thing that's not available in Udon graph, which is always sad. This one's actually both of them, so we might as well just do both of them here. Then where's it? It's done on click. Where's, oh, actually we can use this shortcut to find the click. And so that is points text. And then what other one has it? On player restore. So, oh, there it is, on player restore. And it is all the way down here. Oh no, so that one's on this one. And then this one's on here. Yeah, we should have done this as we went along. Sorry about that. I should have just jumped ahead, but I didn't look at the script. And then this one needs to update both of them as well. And, oh, I wonder what this delayed event is for. Update auto clicker. Oh, I know what that is. Basically, it's going to start the... which one here? The update auto clicker, so that this will then have a loop going round and round and round. Okay, so now let's just make sure that none of our send custom events are without an event name, because that, I don't know if that causes a crash. Does it, Chris? It would be object reference not set to the instance of an object if it is, but I don't know if it is, if it would give that bug or not. Either way, it looks like all of them are done. Awesome. So I'm going to hit compile and come back into our scene. Actually, let me just full screen this. Just spacebar to get out of full screen mode. You can also just double click the tab. I don't think I said that earlier. Anyways, in the scene, we've got the idle game, which has got the script here. I'm going to add component, which is an Udon behavior component. And I'm going to give it idle game graph. Now I'm going to grab I'm going to select all the variables and just replace them with their graph counterparts. But I think that's actually all I need, right? Initial order check price. They actually changed it from what the default is. Look at that. Interesting. Unless I did that wrong on mine. Where is it? No, they put it at 100 and then it's only 50 here. Oh well, that's fair enough. Well, and now we can remove that component. And now we want to go find, I think it's by auto clicker, which will probably be it. Oh yeah, it's telling it's missing. It says by auto clicker, which, oh, they'll be trying to get, if I just give idle game, Udon behavior. Oh, I've got to scroll down because the screen's too small. Send custom event. Yeah, try by auto clicker. Yep, okay, yep, that works. And then now we need to find the button, which I believe this is the button, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, well, the actual button is the button. Fair enough. We've got the idle game here, and it's missing the idle game function, but what we want to do is go add component, we'll create a behavior component, and we want to give it our game button, and now it's asking for an Udon behavior component, which is our idle game. So now we should be able to get rid of this. I'm going to change the interaction text to click, even though they didn't do that themselves. And I think we should be good to go. So let's press play and test this out and see that it works. And now that we're in the game, we can see that when we click the button, it adds 1 to our cheese. And we can just keep spamming this. I really wish I had an auto clicker right for this. It'd be quite convenient. Well, let's buy one. We can click it and we can see that the price updates. And now we're earning 1 cheese per second. And I can just keep spamming this. And we should be able to buy a second one and increase the price for the next one once again. Awesome. So hopefully you found this helpful. You could definitely modify this in order to create more interesting stuff. But obviously that's up to you and how much you want to do it. I definitely recommend doing this in Udon Sharp though, if you're comfortable with coding, because well, that will just allow you to do so much faster. But that's not available to everyone. Not everyone is comfortable with coding, and I totally get that. So hopefully you found this interesting, and especially if you're trying to go either from Udon Graph to Udon Sharp or Udon Sharp to Udon Graph, hopefully it shows you the similarities in between the two. They're not too bad. But anyways, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave a like if you liked it. Leave a comment down below with any questions. And feel free to look in the description for my links to my Discord and Patreon down below. No, wait, they'll be on the main channel. If you go to my main channel, PlayerBush001, you'll be able to find links to my Patreon, Discord, and even my Ko-Fi if you don't like using Patreon. And I think that's all we have to do, so I'll see you again next time. Bye!